Hey everybody, it's Christina from Creations with Christina. Welcome back to another Stampin' on Friday episode. Today we're going to be using the Paper Tray Ink Stamp Set Friendship Jar, and I'm also using the dies that you can purchase with to go with the stamp set. There's also another one, a label die that goes with this, but I don't have that one for the stamp right here, but I'm going to go ahead and just cut that out freehand. So let's go ahead and get started. I have my big shutout with my platform, and I have all of my tabs down because we are using the wafer thin dies, so you want to do that with all your platforms. I'm going to put my plate down. I'm going to start off with my jar, and I'm going to be using this pattern paper, and this comes from a October Afternoon 9 to 5 8x8 paper pad, and I'm just going to go ahead and cut that out. And then I'm going to take this little piece of this wood grain pattern paper that comes from the same collection, and I'm going to use that to cut out the top to my jar. And then I have a piece of a green stripe, diagonal stripe pattern paper, and I'm going to cut out this little fringe, this little scallop fringe that you can put on your jar. I'm going to go ahead and cut that one out. Alright, so I have all of my pieces cut out. I'm going to go ahead and do my stamping. I'm going to use some Colorbox chalk ink. And I'm going to stamp on a piece of, this is vintage cream, no, this is fine linen paper tray ink. I'm so used to saying vintage cream because I use mainly vintage cream for everything. I'll go ahead and set that aside and let it dry a little bit. And I'm just going to use a baby wipe to clean my stamp. And I do use a non-alcohol, has no alcohol or fragrances in it, baby wipes. Go ahead and peel this off. I'm going to take my little scallop edge that comes in that set and stamp my scallop piece onto my little scallop edge that I cut out. And the last thing I'm going to do is go ahead and stamp my jar. And I have that mounted to my Fisker stamp press because it's a little too big for my Martha Stewart press. And there we go. I went ahead and freehand cut out my little label, and then I pulled out from that same stamp set a sentiment that says "My Friend." And for this I'm going to be using some of the Simply Chartreuse Paper Tray ink pad. And then I'll stamp that right in the center of my little label. There we go. So it says "My Friend." That will get adhered right to the front of my little jar, but for now I'm going to go ahead and start putting just some little touches on here. I have my little jar top, and then I also have the little fringe, so I'm going to go ahead and adhere that down before I start putting my top together, because I am going to add a little too much glue on there. Just add a little twine around the top of my jar lid. And then adding the fringe actually helps me a little easier to hold it together. So I have some twine. And for this, what I'm going to do is I'm going to stick a glue dot on the back of this, so I have a place to kind of hold my twine in place while I'm wrapping it around. So a little glue dot in the back will hold it. And then I'm just going to wrap this around a couple of times. So I'm going to add a little bit of dimensional adhesive to the back of my jar top, and I cut some in half just so I can get it on there a little bit easier. We'll adhere that right to the top of our jar. And then I'm going to take another dimensional and add that to the back of my little label that says my friend. And that will get adhered right to the center of my jar. Alright, so we have our little jar put together. We're going to go ahead and start putting our card together. I have a piece of wood grain, and this is cut down to 5 1/4 by 4 inches. And then I have another piece of pattern paper, and this is cut down to 3 3/4 by 5 inches. That will get adhered right to the center of our card. First, I'm going to take this little piece of, another piece of the wood grain that's cut at 1 1/2 inches, and we'll go ahead and adhere this down, and I'm going to do a little sewing. So I'm going to just put a little bit right in the center. I'm not going to really go along the edges or anything because I'm going to use my sewing machine and I don't want to get too much adhesive onto my needle. So I'm just going to lay that down there. Then I have another piece of that same striped paper that we used for our stamped piece, and I'm going to take my Fiskars scallop punch, which I haven't used in a very long time, and we'll cut out a little border that we're going to put right above this scallop piece. Alright, so I'm just going to put a little bit of adhesive on here. Again, just sticking kind of to the center parts because I am going to sew around the edges, and I'm just going to line up so my scallops are about the same on both sides. I'll use my little scissors here to trim off the edges. And now I'm going to take this to my sewing machine. I'm going to do a straight stitch going around the outside, and I think I'm going to also add a little zigzag going right in the center there. So I'll be right back. Alright, so I did a straight stitch and a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to go ahead and adhere this down to my card base. I'm using a standard A2 size card, which is a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, and it folds at the top. And I'll go ahead and adhere that down right to the center. Actually, I need to put this onto my grosgrain piece first. So we'll adhere that down first. I just used some of the Tim Holtz tissue tape to hold my threads down in the back of my pattern piece here. So I'm going to go ahead and adhere this to my wood grain. And then my wood grain will get adhered now to my card front. I'm just going to add some dimensionals to the back of the jar, and we'll go ahead and stick that down to my card. Just going to go right here. And then I have a little orange dot, or an orange button, and I'm going to use that from another October afternoon. That comes from the Rocket Age buttons set. I didn't have the button pack that goes with this, but this Rocket Age set, the orange matches nicely. So one side of this has like a little scallop and the other side is flat. So I'm just going to take a little piece, and I use crochet thread from, you can get that at any craft store, and I'm just going to go ahead and stick this into the button. So I'm not going to tie a knot or a bow or anything. I just fed the two pieces of crochet thread through the buttonholes, and they're coming out the back and sticking out both sides, and I want it to stay that way, so I'm just going to go ahead, add a little glue dot, and that'll hold my thread and also give me, you know, adhesive to adhere down my button. So I'm just going to put that right on that scallop edge, and then I'm going to take my scissors and trim those so they're just kind of peeking out the back of the button. And then the last thing I'm adding is a little sentiment that comes from this October afternoon, the 9 to 5 little flyers, and this one says, "Just for you." I already cut it out and then added some foam adhesive to the back, and I'm just going to go ahead and stick this right up in the top. It has the same colors from the pattern papers. And now it says, "Just for you, my friend." Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.